My name is Hannah Ingram. I'm 32, an ER nurse, and a single mother. 3 weeks ago, at my own sister's wedding, in front of more than 200 guests, I became the punchline. Sophia held the microphone, glowing under the lights, and smiled as she said, "My sister is a single mom, and no one wants her." The entire room burst into laughter. Before I could even react, my mother chimed in from the main table. "She's used goods." The laughter grew louder. My father turned his head away, trying to hide his smile. I stood there, frozen. But the most painful part wasn't what they said. It was Michael, my 5-year-old son, sitting right beside me. His small hand tightened around mine, his wide eyes scanning the room, confused as he watched everyone laugh at his mother. "Mommy, why are they laughing?" I couldn't answer. And in that moment, I realized this wasn't just about me anymore. But in the middle of all that laughter, there was one person who didn't laugh, and what he did next changed everything. To understand how things got that far, you have to know what it was like growing up in the Ingram family. There were always two kinds of daughters, one who was loved and one who had to take care of herself. Sophia was the princess. She was beautiful, charming, always the center of attention. From a young age, she was Dad's favorite, Mom's perfect copy. She got the best of everything: clothes, her own room, and all the attention. And me? I was the stable one, the one who was independent, who didn't need much. It sounds positive, but in my family, it meant I was overlooked. When Sophia went to prom, she wore an expensive dress that looked like it came straight out of a magazine. 2 years earlier, I wore a clearance dress, one I bought myself with babysitting money. Her room had a balcony, decorative lights, brand new furniture. Mine was next to the storage room, filled with old, leftover things. I didn't hate Sophia. I really didn't. She was just benefiting from a system she didn't create. But every night, lying there alone, I kept asking myself, what did I do wrong? Why did my own parents look at me like I didn't exist? I didn't know that feeling of being invisible would follow me for years, and eventually lead to the moment I stood at my sister's wedding, turned into a joke in front of hundreds of people. I met Noah when I was 24, during my second year working as an ER nurse. He was charming, confident, the kind of man who made you feel special in a crowded room. We got married after just 1 year. But it didn't take long for things to change. Noah had a way of making me feel like I was never enough. My appearance, my job, even the smallest decisions. He was controlling, critical, and slowly began isolating me from my friends. By the time I found out he was having an affair with his manager, I was 7 months pregnant. I had nothing left except the baby growing inside me. The marriage ended when Michael was 14 months old. I was 27, working night shifts, paying hourly for daycare, living in a cramped little apartment. I thought my family would be there for me then, but they weren't. My mother just sighed and said, "I always thought you didn't know how to keep a man." Sophia sent one message: "You should go to therapy." No one asked if I was okay. No one asked what Michael needed. So I learned how to survive. On my own. But there's one thing I could never accept: that my pain became something for others to judge, criticize, singe and laugh at. If you've ever had your own family turn their back on you when you needed them most, comment 1 so I know you're not alone. Lucas Mercer entered my life about 2 years before the wedding. He was Sophia's boyfriend, a child advocacy lawyer. Quiet, composed, the kind of person who doesn't say much, but somehow still commands attention. The first time I met him was at a family dinner. Sophia wanted to introduce her perfect boyfriend. But what surprised me wasn't him. It was the way he treated my son. The moment he walked in, Lucas didn't start with small talk for the adults. He crouched down to Michael's level, smiled, and said, "That's a cool dinosaur shirt. T-Rex?" Michael lit up instantly. No one in my family had ever given him that kind of attention. Throughout dinner, I noticed Lucas observed everything. He saw how my mom kept steering every conversation back to Sophia. He saw how my dad laughed loudly with her, but barely reacted to anything I said. And he saw me, automatically getting up to clear the table while Sophia stayed seated, scrolling on her phone. After dinner, as I was getting Michael into the car, Lucas walked over. "Does your family always treat you like that?" he asked. I paused. "Like what?" "Like you don't exist." I forced a small smile, trying to brush it off like it was normal. "Sophia's the star. I'm just the background." He didn't laugh. He just looked at me for a long moment, then said, "You're a good mother. Michael is lucky to have you." I don't know why, but that stayed with me. Sophia's wedding invitation arrived in a thick envelope, embossed with elegant gold lettering, the kind that makes you feel like you're being summoned to a royal event. The wedding was held at a 5-star hotel in Manhattan, with over 200 guests and a price tag in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, all paid for by my parents. By contrast, when I got married, they contributed exactly $2,000 and complained about it for months. But what bothered me wasn't the difference. It was the conditions that came with it. 2 weeks before the wedding, Sophia called me. "Just wear something simple, okay? Don't draw attention." I paused for a second, then nodded. "Okay." "And Michael," she hesitated, "does he really have to come? He might ruin the ceremony." My grip tightened on the phone. "I don't have anyone to watch him." "Fine. But keep him quiet, and you'll be seated at the back." On the morning of the wedding, my mom called again. "You and the boy are at table 23 near the service entrance. Don't draw attention. This is Sophia's day." Draw attention. They talked about my son, like he was something inconvenient that needed to be hidden. That's when I felt it. Something wasn't right. But I told myself, just get through one day, and it'll all be over. The ceremony was perfect, at least on the surface. Crystal lights shimmered overhead, white flowers filled the hall, and soft classical music drifted through the air. I sat at table 23, tucked away near the service entrance, exactly where they had placed me. Michael sat beside me, quietly holding my hand. Then came the speeches. Sophia stepped onto the stage, microphone in hand, wearing that flawless smile. She started with the usual thank yous, until her gaze landed on me. "Hannah, could you stand up for a second?" 200 pairs of eyes turned toward me. My heart pounded, but I stood. "This is my sister," Sophia said sweetly. "She's a single mom, abandoned by her husband." A few scattered laughs. "No one wants her. I mean, who would want someone with a kid with that kind of baggage?" This time, the whole room laughed. I stood there, unable to move. Then my mother added, "She's used goods." The laughter exploded. I looked down at Michael. His face was red, his eyes brimming with tears. "Mommy, why are they laughing?" I couldn't answer. And in that moment, I realized this wasn't some spontaneous joke. This was planned, a setup, a stage, and I was the main character they put on display to humiliate. If you've ever been publicly humiliated and no one stood up for you, comment 1. The laughter still echoed through the room until it suddenly stopped. Lucas stood up. At first I thought he was going to leave, walk away like everyone else, but he didn't. He walked straight toward the stage. Sophia was still smiling, holding the microphone, until Lucas gently but firmly took it from her hand. "Lucas, what are you doing?" He didn't answer. The entire room fell silent. Lucas looked at me, then at Michael. My little boy, trembling with fear. And when he spoke, his voice wasn't loud, but it carried across the room. "I'm sorry for interrupting, but there's something I need to say." He turned to face the 200 guests. "For the past 2 years, I've watched how this family treats Hannah. No one laughed anymore. I've seen her ignored, treated like she doesn't exist, and tonight, you turned her pain into entertainment." The air grew heavy. Lucas pointed toward Michael. "That child is 5 years old, and you just made him watch his mother be humiliated in front of a crowd." Sophia started to panic. "It was just a joke." Lucas looked at her, his expression turning cold. "No, it wasn't." A long silence followed. Then he said, each word clear and steady, "I can't marry you." The entire room seemed to explode, then collapse into a dead, suffocating silence. "What?" Sophia froze. The perfect mask on her face began to crack. "Lucas, you're joking, right?" But Lucas wasn't joking. He took a step back, putting clear distance between them. "I'm not marrying someone who can do this to her own family." A gasp rippled through the crowd. 200 people. And no one was laughing anymore. They looked at Sophia. They looked at my mother. And finally, they looked at me. Everything shifted in a matter of seconds. Lucas continued, his voice calm but cold. "I'm a child advocacy lawyer. I've built my career fighting environments like this." He pointed toward Michael. "And I won't become part of one." Sophia was truly panicking now. "You're ruining our wedding." Lucas didn't hesitate. "No, you already did." That sentence landed like a final cut. Then he turned to the guests. I'm sorry for disrupting the ceremony, but the truth needed to be said. He set the microphone down and walked off the stage. No looking back, no hesitation. Behind him, everything fell apart. A lavish wedding, reduced in just a few minutes to a disaster no one could fix. I thought it would end there. That at least the truth had been seen. But I was wrong. My mother was the first to rush over. Her face was flushed with anger, not at Sophia, but at me. "What did you say to Lucas?" I froze. "I didn't say anything." "Don't lie," she nearly shouted. "You've always been jealous of your sister. You couldn't stand seeing her happy." Before I could respond, Sophia rushed in too, mascara smeared. "This is all your fault. You ruined my wedding." I looked at them and realized something terrifying. They didn't think they had done anything wrong. If anything, they were already rewriting the story, right in front of 200 people. The looks around the room began to shift, from silence to suspicion. Maybe the sister really did something. There has to be a reason. I could see it in their eyes. In just a few minutes, I went from the victim to the villain. No one mentioned the insults. No one mentioned the 5-year-old boy who had been crying. It was all buried under a new narrative. The jealous sister ruined the wedding. If you've ever been blamed for something you didn't do, comment 1 so I know you understand. I stood there, under hundreds of shifting gazes, and realized something with absolute clarity. If I stayed even one more minute, my story would be rewritten completely. I would become the jealous sister who ruined the wedding, not the victim, not the one who was humiliated, but the one at fault. I looked down at Michael. His face was still wet with tears, his small hands gripping my shirt like he was afraid I might disappear. And in that moment, everything became clearer than ever. This wasn't about me anymore. It was about my son, a little boy who had just watched his mother be laughed at by an entire room, and not a single person stood up for her. I bent down and lifted Michael into my arms. I didn't say anything else. No arguments. No explanations. I just said one sentence, loud enough for them to hear. I didn't have to say anything to Lucas. He has eyes. No one responded. I turned and walked away. Behind me, my mother shouted, "Come back here and apologize to your sister right now." I didn't stop. Michael wrapped his arms tightly around my neck, his voice small. "Mommy, we're going home, right?" I kissed his forehead gently. "Yeah, we're going home." And for the first time in many years, I walked away without looking back. That night, after putting Michael to bed, I sat alone in my small apartment. My phone kept vibrating, 47 missed calls. Most of them were from my mother, Sophia, and even my father. Messages kept coming in. "You ruined everything. Sophia is devastated. This is all your fault." I read them, then set my phone down. For the first time, I didn't feel the need to explain myself anymore. But the next morning, everything changed. Rachel, my best friend, sent me a series of screenshots. A family group chat. The name, Ingram family, no Hannah. I had been removed from it a long time ago. The messages inside left me frozen. "Sophia, I'm going to call her out in front of everyone. She needs to know she's a disappointment. My mother, just make it look like a joke. Don't make it too obvious. Don't worry, she won't fight back." I read it over and over until the words started to blur. This wasn't impulsive. It wasn't a joke. This was a plan. A carefully staged humiliation, approved by my own family. And in that moment, I understood something very clearly. There was nothing left to fix. I sat there for a long time, staring at those messages, until all the emotions slowly settled. No more shock, no more anger. Just one clear feeling, an ending. 32 years. That's how long I spent trying to be good enough for my family. Trying to stay quiet, trying to endure, trying to hope that one day they would change. But what I had just seen answered everything. They weren't going to change, and they never intended to. I picked up my phone, opened a new note, and wrote just 2 words, "No contact." It wasn't impulsive. It wasn't out of anger. It was because, for the first time in my life, I understood that I couldn't keep living like this. I didn't call back, didn't text to explain, didn't argue. I just stopped. Blocked my mom, blocked Sophia, blocked my dad too. Not to punish them, but to protect myself. And more importantly, to protect Michael. I looked at my son, sleeping peacefully on the couch, his small face calm, untouched by everything that had happened. I whispered softly, "We're going to be okay," and this time, I believed it. If you've ever had to cut someone off to protect yourself, Comment 1. 3 days later, they showed up at my door. I had just finished my shift and was walking Michael home when I saw my parents standing outside my apartment, completely out of place in my small building. "Hannah, we need to talk." My mother's voice was cold. I walked Michael over to the neighbor's place, then came back. "You blocked our numbers?" she asked, her voice shaking with anger. "After everything you've done?" I looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time without avoiding it. "After everything I've done or everything you've done?" She didn't answer. "You ruined your sister's wedding." I let out a short, tired laugh. "I didn't do anything. Sophia stood up and humiliated me. So did you." I was joking. In front of my 5-year-old son? The air went still. I took a slow breath. I saw the group chat. This was planned. My mother's face went pale. My father looked down at the ground. "Since I was 12, I've been asking myself what I did wrong to be treated this way," I said, my voice steady. "Now I know. It wasn't me." I met their eyes. "I'm not gonna let Michael grow up in that kind of environment." A long silence followed. "Now, you need to leave." This time I wasn't the quiet daughter anymore. It didn't end there. Within a week, the video from the wedding spread throughout the family. From one person to another, like undeniable proof. Everything that had been hidden was now out in the open. They heard every word, saw every expression. It was no longer a joke, no longer a misunderstanding. Only the truth remained. Aunt Linda called me one evening, her voice low. "The whole family has seen the video, Hannah, and they're not on your mother's side." I stayed silent. A part of me thought I would feel vindicated, but I didn't. I just felt lighter. Sophia lost Lucas. Lucas's family returned the engagement gifts along with a legal letter, brief and final. There was no going back. Sophia's reputation began to crack. Her work came under scrutiny. People who once supported her started turning away. And my mother? She called relatives one by one, trying to explain it was just a joke that went too far. But no one believed it anymore. Because when the truth is recorded, no explanation is strong enough to erase it. For the first time in my life, the story was no longer theirs to control, and I didn't have to say a word to defend myself. The truth spoke for me. 6 months passed. My life isn't perfect, but for the first time, it's mine. I got promoted at the hospital. Michael started school, made friends, and laughs more every day. The apartment is still small, but it feels warmer than any place I've ever called family. I started therapy, and for the first time in my life, I understood something clearly. The problem was never that I wasn't good enough. It was that I was in the wrong place to be seen. My family still tries to reach out. Messages, calls, late apologies, but I don't go back. Not because I hate them, but because I chose something more important: peace. One day, Michael came home with a drawing from school. While other kids drew big families, my son drew just 2 people. Me and him. "This is my family," Michael said, smiling. I put that drawing on the fridge, and I realized I didn't lose a family. I just chose the right one. If you want more stories like this, drama, plot twists, healing, comment 1, and follow for the next part.